Quake II is back and remastered by Night Dive Studios. The game is available today. The rumors are true. id Software's action-packed, first-person military shooter, Quake II, including the Midway published Nintendo title, Quake II 64, which both originally released in the year 1997, are officially remastered for modern release platforms. And they're available as one package for you to play today. Fans of Quake will finally be able to experience the science fiction sequel's base game with an entirely new setting than its predecessor in Quake I. The sequel re-release includes Sonic Mayhem's iconic soundtrack, the original 1997 dual mission packs, The Reckoning and Ground Zero, and a brand new 28-level expansion from Bethesda's Machine Games, titled Call of the Machine. All of this will be available on modern platforms with modern controls and many enhancements and accessibility options. Bethesda's official synopsis of Quake II goes something like this, quote, "As humanity's last hope, it's up to you to stop the wicked Strog's warpath before it twists mankind into mechanical horrors. The odds are stacked against you on a hostile alien planet teeming with enemy forces. But so long as you have ammo and a pulse, it's not over. Battle hordes of cybernetic creatures in blistering FPS combat, strafing through Quake II's campaign with an iconic arsenal of bullets, rockets, and shells." The team behind the re-release, Night Dive Studios, are quickly becoming one of my favorite developers. This team is responsible for the Kex engine with recent enhanced versions of Doom 64, Quake I, and this year's System Shock remake. Night Dive's remaster is coming to these digital stores: the PlayStation Store for the PS4 and PS5, the Microsoft Store on console including Xbox Series and Xbox One, Nintendo eShop for the Nintendo Switch, and finally on PC stores including Steam, GOG, Epic Store, and the Microsoft Store. Komatsu has a great list summarizing some of the key features of Night Dive's release, which include up to 4K widescreen resolution support, improved animations and gore, improved and restored AI behaviors, enhanced cinematics, dynamic and colored lighting, anti-aliasing, depth of field, online local multiplayer with crossplay, gyro aim on Switch and PlayStation, 4-player online or local split-screen cooperative play, support for 16-player online or 4-player local split-screen, and bot support for offline and online deathmatch and team deathmatch modes included. For fans of physical, limited run games is releasing a special and ultimate edition of the Quake II remaster. With pre-orders opening today, the Ultimate Edition will include a digital Steam code and several collectibles, including a mini metal Adrianator ship originally designed by the id Software artist Adrian Carmack. Pre-orders are also open for physical editions of Quake II on Xbox, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. For fans of Sonic Mayhem's Quake II soundtrack, Laced Records is working with Bethesda to release an exclusive limited edition 2 solid red and orange A-side, B-side effect LPs with 19 tracks from the game, including sleeve artwork by id Software and Jason Williford. Those are the main details you'll want to be aware of if you're thinking of purchasing Quake II. But let's dive in just a little deeper by going through some of the developer insights released by Bethesda at QuakeCon and online via their blog posts and press releases. If you're new to the channel, this is the Yetti Den. We often go down memory lane and share stories about retro game development while unpacking the memories forged by our favorite games. In light of today's announcement, we'll go over the original game director Kevin Cloud's commentary on the game's initial release from 1997. Cloud also serves as the senior producer on the remastered port. We'll be touching on a few more key points of interest from id Software's development team and their insights on the game's technology, evolution, and original releases. If you're a fan of id Software and Bethesda, then please do us a huge favor, like and subscribe to the Yetti Den. We would love to hear your thoughts on Quake 2 in the comments. In anticipation of this QuakeCon announcement, I've been revisiting Quake I and its Nine Inch Nails soundtrack. So I'm pretty excited to roll out that video on this channel as well. That video will be released soon. With that in mind, if you're a Quake fan, fear not, more Quake conversations are arriving to the Yetti Den channel shortly. Back to the main topic at hand. Quake 2 is now available day and date release on Xbox Game Pass. This is pretty exciting for my fellow retro gaming enthusiasts. The announcement is also encouraging because this displays willingness from Microsoft to share their Bethesda published IP and id Software developed titles to all other major console platforms like Sony and Nintendo. In fact, Quake 2's development team even boasts cross-play multiplayer functionality, which will undoubtedly encourage maximum integration of the new and enhanced multiplayer features of the sequel's port to modern systems. Prior to this remake, Quake 2 through 4 were not available on modern Xbox systems, so in essence, Xbox gamers only had access to Bethesda's retro catalog by cobbling together modded titles on Steam and GOG. Otherwise, we'd have to resort to busting out the occasional original Xbox or Xbox 360 to gain access to those original Xbox releases. My guess is that Night Dive Studios and id Software are having too much fun remastering these games to spend time with the Xbox backwards compatibility team. Honestly, I think I can live with that so long as I am able to access the original games on GOG or on Steam where they're easier to mod, and it seems like that partnership is still going strong. The truth is, mod support is necessary for so many retro PC titles, so having these enhanced remasters come to the console space really helps the Xbox ecosystem thrive. Thankfully for Quake 2, we have an incredible opportunity for all modern gamers to experience this iconic game. So let's dive in a little bit deeper into the development of this modern remaster. The QuakeCon panel for Quake 2's announcement and developer conversation included id Software's executive director, Marty Stratton, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal's game director, Hugo Martin, Quake 2's remastered edition senior producer, as well as the original game director, Kevin Cloud, Night Dive Studios' Edward Richardson, the lead multiplayer developer, and Mike Rubitz, id Software's senior programmer, who was involved with 2019's Doom 1 and Doom 2 ports, as well as 2021's Quake re-release. According to Kevin Cloud, the technology was changing so rapidly that every game that id created, from Commander Keen to even Quake 2, drastically improved by leaps and bounds, whether through the game design or the programming at id Software. These game-to-game improvements were id's calling card. In fact, Cloud recalls that Quake 2 wasn't even initially going to be called Quake 2, but due to trademark issues, they ended up just using Quake 2 for a lack of time within their incredibly short window of development. Quake was originally developed by a team of about 10 id Software developers, and their production cycle lasted for about 10 to 12 months, with 16-hour days, often leaving Cloud with just enough time to drive home, sleep for 4 to 5 hours, and head back into the office. In typical id fashion, they were short on manpower, short on time, but not short on passion. During Quake 2's original development, Marty Stratton was an Activision employee on the publishing side of Quake 2. Marty was assigned as a producer to id Software, where he would eventually join up as a member of the John Carmack-led development studio. Stratton's responsibilities included working with QA, replication, and marketing. Marty was responsible for the delivery of builds of the game. Stratton would wait about 6 hours for the 300 megabyte-ish file of the latest build to post on the network so he could download it, burn that build onto a CD-ROM disk, take that disk, deliver it to an employee in Los Angeles, who would then take a plane to Tennessee to the replicator. While the latest build was on the plane flight, Stratton would connect with QA testers to find out if the latest build had any game-breaking bugs. If it did, then Stratton would call the employee when they landed in Tennessee and have that employee return to Los Angeles to repeat the cycle until all game-breaking bugs were removed. So for Quake II, Marty repeated this process 4 times over the 2 days before finally delivering the gold disc to manufacturing. Marty recalled id Software's partnership with Rogue Entertainment on the Quake II mission pack Ground Zero, and Activision's partner Zatrix Entertainment Inc. Their pack was called The Reckoning for Quake II. Both studios released these mission packs alongside with id within the same year as the base game's release, with only 1 year of development for each of the mission packs along with the main campaign. Similar to id Software's original Momentum, Marty Stratton and Night Dive's Edward Richardson described this 2023's Quake II team behind the remaster as having an extremely fast-paced work ethic. In the span of a day, the Night Dive developers spin up a tremendous amount of global collaboration, with retextured models being sent over Slack, shared at a rapid rate, including the server code jumping from 10 Hz to 40 Hz overnight. Not to mention, Night Dive's UK-based QA team deploys a speedrunner named Leo, who blasts through the maps to expose bugs. At this point, Night Dive's work ethic has spun up legends of its own might, with their own ability to release multiple remasters and remakes in the span of the same year. The team at id pulled in community support modders to contribute to the Bethesda published release. id Software programmer Mike Rubitz credits the Quake II opening cinematic as a totally rebuilt reconstruction by a community member named Brendan McKinney. According to Rubitz, McKinney taught himself 3D modeling while learning Blender via the intro cinematic of Quake II. With McKinney's recreation, the id team incorporated original models of the Adrianator ship from the id Software vault, including some of the planet surfaces. In continuing the community tradition of id Software and Bethesda's support for their vibrant modding communities, the id Software team released the 2023 DLL source code for Night Dive's Quake II release day and date with the PC launch. The QuakeCon panel team also touched briefly on the implementation of Quake II 64 and how they are able to utilize authentic extracted maps and textures from the original ROM, porting over the enemies as well. The team also noted that the Nintendo 64 version of Quake II was not just a console port, but it is a completely different take on Quake II, similar to Doom 64. With access to so many unused files by the original 1997 team, the developers of the re-release were fortunate enough to raid the id Vault, which is a company server boasting a large collection of cutting room floor assets from the original release, including altered Quake II E3 maps, cut content, early unreleased and unused models, and sketches, including one with even manual long division from one of the developers. With only a year to release Quake II in 1997, the team would frequently leave behind these ideas that were not ready in time for the breakneck speed of the Quake II dev cycle. So the original Quake II included no auto maps due to the level design verticality, which included over 2 to 3 stories. It proved difficult to pull off. The implementation of 2023's new Compass feature allowed id and Night Dive to incorporate developer Mike Dean's bot navigation system. As Cloud describes it, there are nodes that allow the AI to access pathing through the world. The Compass utilizes that same node to path the player to the right objective. These quality of life improvements allow the modern mission pack designers at Machine Games to take advantage of these new enhanced features. The goal of Quake II is to innovate by going beyond some of the previous game's traditional level design conventions. Cloud's original team wanted to create military objectives to improve on the typical Doom 1 and Doom 2 gameplay progression that was also implemented in Quake 1. Rather than just going through a series of levels, it wanted to break out the simplification of Quake 1 by giving bigger goals and larger, more seamlessly integrated levels for the player to explore. By connecting the levels, its developers could introduce different gameplay mechanics to the player as the player traversed the world. The seamless level design could easily confuse players of previous id titles, and so the implementation of the Compass now allows modern players to know where to go next. Doom 1 and Doom 2 levels always ended without the player having to circle back to previous explored locations, but in Quake 2 there is much more of a connectivity between the maps. So the evolution of game design and progression was meant to create a seamless traversal by capturing the player's interest in the broader scope of the game. According to Cloud, the classic re-release goals are to stay true to the original game while taking advantage of the modern console enhancements like the Compass and muzzle flashes. For instance, instance, on the first level of Quake II, the team found cut content of the map. That could be reintegrated into the 2023 release of the game. These are the kind of enhancements that excited the developers of the re-release. Throughout the development of the remaster, it went through the source code to find cut animations, scripted events, and behaviors of enemy monsters. The short cycle of development behind the 1997 version of the game forced the small 10-person team to move fast, which inevitably left so much of the content being cut to the prior release. This created an opportunity for id and Night Dive Studios to dig through original source code and the id software vault to finally implement elements of the game that today's developers felt players should be able to experience. Beyond the cut content, there was also a desire to implement community feedback of the Quake series. The damage indicators, according to Rubitz, were born out of a desire to allow deaf and hard of hearing players to spot a visual cue for where the enemies are firing from, which he also noted could benefit any player who decided to play the game with the sound off. This damage feedback was a constant critique of Quake II. Rubitz had many friends who were deaf Quake III players, so he put himself in their shoes. With the indicators being added to the game, the damage becomes much more clear for a player playing with the sound off. In terms of the lighting of Quake II, the team did a full relight. They used Eric W. tools, which is considered by id and his community to be the gold standard of modern tools for Quake. They reached out to mod developers to finish up Quake II's support, which led to them deciding to also add glow map support. In its original release, the base game of Quake's 1997 release was enhanced by the mission pack, due to each of the add-ons having their own separate DLLs. This would include enhancements and improvements of the AI. With 3 different DLLs, Peril, a community developer, has separately merged the DLLs together so that others could go in and use the assets from all 3 missions, the main mission pack as well as its 2 additional add-on mission packs. Cloud and his team asked Peril to do the same for the new release of Quake II. They went through and chose the best behaviors for the game overall. Once that was implemented, they improved the system to make Quake II's re-release DLL even better. These improved systems with the cut content animations allowed for opportunities like the Berserker having a file that allowed the enemy creature to leap forward and smash on the ground, which was cut for time back in 1997. Today's developers brought back his pound attack to make his attack a lot more dangerous than previously in 1997's release. And according to Kevin Cloud, developer John Dean also tied the AI into the bot's navigation system, whereas before they would get to a certain distance, miss the player, and move on. In essence, the newer release provides a more modern combat challenge for the player. One of the most exciting additions of 2023's Quake II release is the implementation of Machine Games' brand new mission pack, Call of the Machine. With a deep lineage of Quake modding, the developer's new campaign features units with 3 or 4 maps apiece in them. Machine Games built their mission pack by hand. They'd have weekly internal Quake Club meetups where they'd work on new maps. Through Quake 1, id Software found out that Machine Games was doing this, so when it came time to do Quake 2, there were eager Machine Games developers who wanted a chance to implement a new mission pack into Quake 2. Corpse Run from Call of the Machine implements features like a flashlight, taking advantage of the new dynamic lighting system. Corpse Run is one of Kevin Cloud's favorite openings on a Quake map ever. An interesting tech insight by Edward Richardson, multiplayer designer of Night Dive's Quake 2, is that the single player mission pack still connects to his multiplayer server, so that Machine Games could maximize the amount of corpses in Corpse Run. And according to Richardson, the multiple instances of enemies are still going through the net code. The amount of data that the map sends forced networking systems to be updated to see partial messages with updated packet files, so it automatically frequents messages, which was the intense work required to allow all of the corpses in Corpse Run to be on screen at the same time. I must admit that much of this information totally goes over my head, but I think it really helps to understand the breadth of work that Night Dive and id put into Quake 2's release. There is so much more that we could dive into today, but for now, let's just leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to dive into this game myself. Let me know if you have thoughts on this re-release. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye.